Is your husband's family coming for Christmas? Perfect. I'm on vacation. You're in charge. I was stirring chicken soup on a Wednesday when daughter said, "Good news. We reserved your house for Christmas. 24 of us. You've got the big dining room and you cook." I said, "The last part is true, but did you ask me?" "It's family, Mom. Don't make it weird." I am retired from my job. I did not retire from consent. 5 minutes later, his mother called. "We'll need your oven at noon sharp, non-negotiable. I'll bring our roast. We'll stage the decor the night before so the vibe is right." I said, "No." Silence. Then the kind of smile you can hear. "We'll swing by and measure doorways." They knocked like they owned the hinges. I opened the door, stood in my frame, and let the word land with weight. No to your oven, no to your decor, no to a party I never agreed to. I closed the door and opened my laptop. California Zephyr, Chicago to the coast, mountains, glass roof, steel that sings at night. "How much?" the agent asked. I looked at the number. Then I looked at my life. I said, yes, I'm choosing myself. This Christmas, the roast could find another oven. The only schedule in my house would be mine. There's a shoebox in my hall closet that says snow boots in fading marker. The boots are long gone. Inside the box, I keep receipts. I didn't start with a plan. The first one was Paige's rent when she and Dylan pivoted careers during a month that lasted 6. Then Dylan's transmission, a flight to Austin for a family emergency that somehow required them, but not their wallet. Groceries, gifts, gas, the 3 Gs of the generous mother. I kept them because I am a widow who learned not to trust memory with numbers. I kept them because I did not want to hate anybody for forgetting what they cost me. I took down the shoebox and set it on my table. I counted slowly, writing down every dollar. It wasn't the total that hurt. It was the story it told with ink. Every stub was a yes I'd signed without reading. The phone buzzed again. I didn't look. It buzzed again. I looked. New name, Connie. We'd met twice. Dylan's mother shook hands like she was taking her pulse. She complimented my casserole last Easter and mailed me an article about paleo the next day. "Hello, Nora," she said before hello was finished. "What a wonderful news. What a relief. I thought we were going to have to rent an awful banquet room with carpet and fluorescent lighting. Your dining room is so tasteful. A proper space makes all the difference." I'd pressed my tongue to my molars. A proper space belongs to someone. "You're a gem for hosting. Quick things so we can be efficient. We'll need your oven from noon sharp Christmas Day. I'll bring our family roast, non-negotiable tradition, and we'll set up our decor the night before, just to make sure the vibe is right." I said, "No." Connie took the word like a person who had never been handed it before. "No? To which part?" "No to assigning my oven, no to redecorating my house, no to planning an event I didn't agree to." She recovered at speed. "I can see we've caught you when you're overwhelmed. Not to worry, I'm a solutions person. See you the 23rd. XO." She hung up. I stared at the phone and wondered when other people's assumptions had learned to yank my doorknob like it owed them money. Gwen Parker is the friend you call when you need someone to be kind, in a way that doesn't confuse honesty with softness. We met at 22 at a church picnic where the potato salad could have killed a small town. I dialed her number and waited. "Say it." "Say what?" "That you're done being everyone's unpaid staff." "I have a shoebox of receipts," I said. "Congratulations, that's your speech." "What am I going to do for Christmas?" I asked. "Sit here and listen to them pound on my door?" "What did Tom always talk about?" she asked. Tom was my husband, gone 15 years now, who loved trains the way little boys love dinosaurs. He'd leave the bedroom window open an inch, even in February, just to hear freight in the dark. Trains, I said. He always talked about trains. Then go sit on one, she said. Buy a ticket with nobody on the other end. Let's still carry some of the weight you've been hauling. How far? I asked. As far as it takes. 2 nights later, someone knocked like they were trying to loosen the hinges. I looked through the peephole. Connie in a camel coat, hair so neat it must have not had a childhood. Paige behind her, scarf twisted around her throat. I opened the door and stood inside the frame. Surprise, Connie sang. We thought we'd walk the kitchen and do a little logistics. I brought a measuring tape. You can tell a lot about a home from the width of a doorway. You can tell more by whether the door is open. Paige rolled her eyes. Mom, we're just trying to make this smooth. Smooth for whom? For everyone, she said, irritation climbing her throat. Don't make this weird, Connie chirped. We already told the family you're hosting. I didn't, I said. We can rent chairs, Connie said, lifting a hand the way some people lift a martini. I have a guy. No, I said again, the word a coin with weight. Mom, Paige's voice thinned like ice. Why are you doing this? We work. You're retired. I am retired from my job, not from the right to my time. Connie arranged compassion on her face with fine motor skills. Nora, I know the holidays are difficult for single women. I'm a widow, and I'm not applying for pity. We'll come back when you've had a moment to collect yourself, Connie said in a tone that mistook condescension for help. You caught me at the exact right moment, I said, and closed the door. I backed into the kitchen, palms warm from the brass. I've always worried that I'm a person who will apologize 2 minutes after finally standing up. This time, I stood and didn't say sorry. I opened my laptop and typed California Zephyr. It's a line that runs from Chicago to the Bay, threading prairie, climbing the Rockies, slipping into the Sierra Nevada, then gliding down to the water like a secret going public. I watched the video I didn't need and felt myself want. The next morning, I took the early train from Milwaukee to Chicago, a commuter with coffee and a plan. Union Station has the kind of ceiling that makes prayer seem like a practical hobby. The ticket agent had lipstick the color of tomatoes and eyes that said she did not fear December. Roomette, she asked. It's Christmas. You'll thank yourself. How much? I asked. When she told me, the little voice that counts the pharmacy copay and the roof patch and the fact of a widow's budget stirred. Then I remembered the shoebox and slid my card across before shame could have a middle. Any special occasion? She asked. Yes. I'm choosing myself. She printed the ticket like a blessing. Have a lovely journey, Miss Ellison. I texted Gwen a photo of the ticket. She responded with 3 train horns and a heart, which is exactly her. Paige called. I let it ring. The Zephyr slid into the platform like a large animal planning to be kind. I climbed into a car with blue seats and strangers who smelled like luggage and cinnamon breath mints. Chicago flattened behind us. The world unrolled into winter fields and rivers like pencil lines. I watched fencing fly by in a rhythm that felt older than anything I had learned in marriage. I kept my phone in airplane mode and let the Midwest explain itself. Grid, grain, sky. Somewhere past Ottumwa, when evening pulled the light over the land like a blanket you don't want but take anyway, the conductor's voice floated through the car. We'll be in Denver by morning. If you've never seen the Rockies after coffee, prepared to believe in things again. I slept to the rhythm of steel making decisions. In the night, a child in the next car narrated the universe. Mom, cows. Mom, More cows. Mom, snow cows. I woke to sunlight making arguments with the glass and a horizon that knew how to stand up. I went to the dining car. Across from me sat a man who took a picture of his pancakes like they'd been on television. He had hair that was giving up being black and practicing silver. A camera sat by his elbow, small enough to slip in a pocket, expensive enough to be insured. "Traveling alone?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "I'm Neil," he said, offering a hand. "Headed to Tahoe. I chase meteor showers like some people chase spring." "Nora," I said, "I chase quiet." "Good luck," he said. "America's loud." He taught physics until 2 winters ago when his wife died slowly and then all at once. That's how he said it, slowly and then all at once. He had promised her he would go places that didn't require taking care of anyone. He was learning the difference between being alone and being unaccompanied. "Do you miss teaching?" I asked. "I miss explaining why," he said. "The how was always easier." The train curved and the mountains stepped out of the doorway. We all went to the observation car like church, glass roof, seats facing the side so you could fall in love with what most people drive past. People pointed like they had invented pointing. I thought about Tom, his packs of timetables, the way he would have narrated tunnels and grades like a bedtime story for grown-ups. I thought about Paige at 5, how everything she pointed at belonged to both of us because she was 5 and I was still a person in her story. I thought about Paige at 13 pointing only at her bedroom door. At 27, pointing at Dylan. At 32, pointing at my calendar. Denver by morning. The city rose out of the cold like a person getting out of bed because they promised. I turned my phone on to text that shook my hand. My favorite was from Dylan. "Babe says you're spiraling. LMK how I can help." No man who types LMK gets to diagnose my mind. I wrote a single sentence and sent it to the group like I was throwing a rock in a pond and waiting for the ripples to mind their own business. "I'm traveling. I won't be hosting Christmas." The dots that indicate thought pulsed, paused, disappeared, returned like a heartbeat lurching. "Traveling where?" Paige asked. "With who?" "West," I wrote. "By train." "With myself." Connie replied as if she had been assigned. "This is very sudden and inconsiderate. People have bought plane tickets." I took a picture of the mountains and sent it without a caption. Dylan chimed in. "Not cool, Nora. Now we have to figure it out." "Yes," I wrote. We were swallowed by the Moffat Tunnel. Darkness so soft it felt ironed. Then the world split open and showed us high country and a sun that acted generous. The observation car made a sound people make at fireworks and births. I went back to my roomette and found a note slid under the door in careful blue cursive. "Miss Ellison, your friend called the station. She says to tell you, I knew you could. Porter M. Wynn has always understood my heart through challenge. Between us, love has always sounded like a dare that folds into a hug." We followed the river into Glenwood Canyon, a ribbon of water the highway tried to pace and couldn't. I sat by the glass with Neil and we mastered the art of contented silence. He showed me a slow video of a meteor shower from last January, white scratches flaring across a sky so still it could have been holding its breath. "Do they make a sound?" I asked. "Not for us," he said. "But if you need one, pick a good one." I picked a sound like someone finally saying my name right. Back home, Paige texted that they couldn't host at their place because it was too small. And what if they used my house with catering and I didn't have to cook? "No," I wrote. Connie said I was putting my daughter in a difficult position. I said I was putting my daughter in an adult position. Dylan wrote, "We'll just do it at a restaurant then. Are you happy?" And I wrote yes. He replied with a thumbs down and then a shrug emoji, which is a way some men believe they have used language. That night, the phone buzzed after the car attendants had already put the soft ladder up for the bunk. Paige. I answered because I was feeling generous or stupid. "Mom," she said, I can't sleep." "You should," I said. "Why are you doing this to me?" "To you?" I asked. She began to cry then, the kind that used to buy her out of corners. "Dylan said his mom is furious. She says this is sabotage." "I'm not a saboteur. I'm a woman who reserves the right to her house and her Christmas." "We told them you'd do it," she said. "We told them you're reliable." "I am reliable," I said. "I reliably say yes to what's mine to carry. This isn't." "You always take care of things," she insisted. "I always took care of you," I said. "And now I am taking care of me." "Are you punishing me?" she asked. "I'm teaching you where I end and you begin," I said. "That sounds like a therapist," she snapped. "I took notes," I said. She hung up, and I looked at my reflection in the dark window, a woman in a rectangle moving through night like it belonged to her. The Sierra Nevada have shoulders. They do not care that you are 70 or kind. They simply exist and require you to earn the view. Someone said Donner Pass in a voice that thought history only happened to other people. A child asked what that meant, and a father lied tenderly. When we descended, pines stood like men with their hands behind their backs, listening to everything. I was not brave, not exactly. I was not scared, not exactly. I felt like an egg with a hairline crack that the right touch would turn into a hatch. The Zephyr ends in Emerville, across the water from this city people pretend is the end of a movie. I stepped onto the platform and did not make a plan. I walked by the water the next day and let myself be warmed by a sun that allowed me to specify my own temperature. I ate soup at a small place with no pictures on the wall, and I did not feel sorry for myself once. I had learned I could be in a public place without being someone's mother or someone's schedule. I had a body, and it took up space, and my chair was mine. When I returned home 2 days later, Milwaukee smelled like everything practical. Salt on the sidewalk, coats drying on hooks. A grocery cart bumped into another grocery cart with an apology that sounded Midwestern in its vowels. I took a cabbie and paid the driver with cash because I like the feel of money changing hands. There was a package by my door. No return address. Inside was a framed photograph. Me in the observation car, head turned toward the west, not looking at the camera. A sticky note. From a stranger who hopes you keep going. N. I hung it right in the kitchen where the calendar had once bossed me around. Paige came on a Tuesday, early afternoon. Daylight is less dramatic than night. It makes fewer excuses. She stood in the hallway like a child pretending to be a coat rack. "I'm sorry," she said, getting right to it. "For what?" I asked. "For all of it," she said. "For assuming, for Connie, for telling everyone you do it, then telling you do it, for making your house my plan." "Apology accepted," I said, because I wanted to start with a door that opened. "We need rules." "Ground rules?" she asked, and for a second we both smiled like we had invented the term. "Yes," I said. "My calendar belongs to me. My kitchen is not a venue. Money given is a gift only when I say so. Otherwise, it's a loan with a date. Ask is a verb. Assume is a warning sign. Emergencies are real twice a year. Pick them carefully. I love you. That is not code for use me." She read the rules like a person reading a language she understood enough to respect. "I didn't know I was doing it," she said. "I didn't know I was allowing it," I said. She told me Dylan thought I was overreacting. I said Dylan should practice reacting at all. She laughed without joy, and then with it. "You won't like this," she said, "but my mother-in-law wants to apologize." She can start by saying the word and end by meaning it. Connie came 2 days later without an entourage, which is how you can tell if a person is visiting or delegating. She stood on my porch holding 2 coffees like they were neutral. "May I?" she asked. I let her in because I prefer to know what people look like up close when they're about to say something important. She sat and crossed her ankles and looked at her cup. "I spoke to my mother last night," she said, eyes trained on the lid. "She is 90. She remembers everything I wish she did not. She reminded me that I was my father's favorite because I never needed anything. I learned to despise need, especially in women. It made me efficient to the point of cruelty." She looked up. "I saw you as an appliance, Nora. Useful, dependable, replaceable. It's practical to see women that way when you have plans, until it isn't." "You don't owe me a manifesto," I said. "I owe you the honesty you demanded," she said. "We will not use your home. I will not assign your oven. I won't call manipulation logistics in your presence again." Saying the word. "Practicing," she answered. She didn't ask to hug me. She didn't offer me a friendship I hadn't asked to buy. She left, and that too was a gift. In January, I signed up for the community choir, not because I am a singer, but because I wanted to see if my voice had survived the long marriage and the longer motherhood and the enormous quiet after. We practice in a church basement that smells like lemon oil and perseverance. The director is a woman with short hair and the laugh that could strip paint. I stand in the second row and borrow confidence from people who can read music. On Tuesdays, I have tea with Gwen, who brings cinnamon rolls when she remembers and gossip when she doesn't. On Fridays, I walk to the library and check out books with covers that embarrass me less than they used to, which probably means I am regaining a tolerance for pleasure. On a warm night in June, I drive to the lake by myself with a folding chair. I sit and watch the sky do what it does, without being asked. A family sets up 3 towels, and a little boy shrieks at a seagull with the energy of a person not yet politicized into acceptable volume. Neil sends photos from places with names like Trail Ridge and Mount Shasta, and other nouns that make people feel sturdy. He has a cabin by Tahoe he goes to for meteor showers. He texts me videos that look like the sky clearing its throat. I send him train schedules I pretend are for him. Sometimes he replies with pictures of pancakes because he believes in repeating the joke until it becomes a tradition. We are a shape that doesn't ask for a name. Money started sitting differently in my account when I stopped serving as the family bank. It's astonishing how much your balance respects you when you respect it. I fixed the roof, bought good tires, let myself get new glasses that were not on sale. I sent a donation to the food pantry and did not write a note about any of it. Paige invites me to dinner now, not to do dinner. She texts, "Do you have it in you to help me pack 2 boxes next week?" Sometimes I say yes, sometimes I say no. When I say no, she writes, "Got it, love you," and nothing else, which means my daughter is learning a language I didn't know I could teach by example. In early July, she called and asked if I wanted to see the venue they chose for a scaled-down wedding. "It's not a barn," she added, as if the Midwest had only barns and regrets. "It's a brick building near the river with windows that make even Dylan's mother feel seen." I said yes and stood in a space with exposed beams and the promise of tables and cried quietly at the sight of my daughter going over a checklist that didn't list me as a resource, only as a guest. Later that day, she asked if I had a minute to sit in the car with the air conditioning and reality. "You were right," she said. "About what?" "About boundaries being the opposite of punishment." She looked straight ahead at nothing. "It would have been easier if you just did Christmas." "It would have been easier for everyone but me," I said. "And easier isn't the same as good." She nodded and bit her lip. "Do you think it's too late for me to learn not to default to you?" "I think you're doing it now," I said. "I think the late train still gets you there." Sometimes in the evenings, I take down the shoebox and look at the old receipts the way some people look at yearbooks. I don't feel anger anymore, just a recognition that I once lived under house rules I didn't write. I put the box back and make tea, and the steam looks like a small train, if you want it to. A woman at choir named Marianne asked how my holidays went. I told her they were quiet and well-engineered. She laughed like a person who appreciates sturdy sentences. "What did you do?" she asked. "I rode a train," I said. "I learned how to be alone without being lonely." She nodded like that was a thing you could major in. Maybe it should be. On a Saturday in August, I met Neil at a pancake place half an hour from home. He brought his tiny camera and ordered coffee like it trusted him. "You'll be proud," he said. "I said no to a favor I didn't owe." "Was it a hard no or a soft no?" I asked. "It was a no with a hand on its hip," he said. "I thought of you and went for posture." He told me his brother wanted him to fly to Phoenix to assemble a bookcase. I told him about the time Paige wanted me to take a day off work to wait for her cable guy when she was 24 and convinced courtesy was a commodity mothers produced for free. We traded stories like baseball cards. We left when the place ignored the fact that it was becoming lunchtime. In September, Connie sent an email with the subject line, "Apology, period," included, because she is a period woman. She wrote that she had started volunteering at a legal clinic for women who needed help with housing, and that she had found her talent for logistics could be used for something besides bossing other women's ovens. She didn't ask me to confirm her growth. She didn't suggest coffee. She just wrote the word and meant it. I hit reply and wrote, "Thank you for using your voice in rooms where it matters. P.S. Pre-diabetic doesn't mean you stop eating like a person. Try adding roasted carrots to your life." She wrote back that she had always hated carrots, but that mine weren't pretentious enough to consider. On a mild October night, the community choir performed in a park by the river, and people stayed even when the gnats tried to negotiate. We sang a song about journeys that would have embarrassed me last year. People clapped in a way that did not involve their phones. Gwen winked from the third row of lawn chairs. Paige and Dylan stood hand in hand by a trash can, which is how I will always remember them, their elegance making the trash can irrelevant. After we sang, a woman about my age came up and said, "You don't know me, but I recognized you from the train." She had been 2 cars back, watching the same granite out the glass. "I didn't say hello then," she said, "because I hadn't learned how to tell a stranger she made me brave." I told her I didn't know how to receive that, but I would practice. Sometimes, when I'm paying for bananas or waiting for my oil change or standing at the bus stop because I like the democracy of it, I think about Christmas. The old kind that required a grocery cart like a bobsled and a list that made me look like Santa's admin. The newer kind that looked like a silver line on a map and the courage to sit in a room with a door that locked from the inside. Now it looks like me in my kitchen, making soup and letting the pot simmer without answering an imaginary phone. If you want to know what freedom sounds like, stand still in your own home and listen for nothing. It's less glamorous than the movies promised. It is also the exact color of relief. I'm 70 now, and I have learned to ask without apologizing and refuse without guilt. I am not late. Trains leave when they leave. The right one is the one you catch by walking to the station that is already yours. This afternoon, I took the framed photo down from the wall and dusted it. My head is turned toward a west that belonged to nobody, and the expression on my face is not triumph and not anger. It is a woman seeing something that was always there, finally looking in the right direction. I put it back up, straightened it without fuss, and made tea. The kettle clicked off like it knew my timing. Somewhere far on the edge of town, a train called once, and I didn't pretend it was for me. I just listened and answered by not moving. A month from now, Paige will marry in that brick building with windows that make even anxious people exhale. I will wear a blue dress and comfortable shoes and bring my whole self. I will sit next to Gwen, who will cry and pretend she's allergic to exposed beans. I will dance if the music tells me nothing terrible will happen if I do. Connie will bring a gift she didn't assign me to open. Dylan will try a new shape of sentence. Someone will ask me what I did for Christmas last year, and I will say I took a train. And they'll say, oh, and wait for the rest. And I'll say that was the rest. Then we will eat cake. I will go home to my kitchen and my calendar and my chair by the window where I turn the lamp on before dark. I will sleep and not wake to a phone buzzing with group chats that assume my labor. In the morning, I will look at the day and ask it politely what it wants from me. Sometimes it will say nothing, and I will let that be an answer. On certain nights, the quadrantids return in January, a meteor shower that writes briefly and brightly across the sky when the air is so cold even sound is careful. Neil will text me an hour before peak and ask if I want to drive out with thermoses and 2 chairs. I'll say yes, or I'll say no, and both will be right. If I go, we will sit, and he will narrate gently, hardly at all, and the sky will scratch itself, and I will think about being dazzling and brief and still enough to change a person who was looking up at the right moment. If I don't go, I'll sit by my window and open it an inch the way Tom did, and I'll listen to the quiet train a city away and call that an answer. I know now that love is not earned by usefulness. It exists or it does not. People who love you do not disappear when you stop being convenient. People who love you might need to relearn you, and you might need to give them a syllabus. That's all right. Teach if you want to. Audit if you don't. Don't grade on a curve that hurts you. I spent a long time confusing being necessary with being loved. Now I make soup because I want to, sing because I can, ride trains because I like watching the land change the pronoun it uses to describe itself. I say yes to what belongs to me and no to what does not. And the people who would punish me for that are not my judges anymore. I do not need a gavel. I have a door. I have a key. I have a ticket stub tucked into a book on the coffee table where I keep the things that do not owe me anything. If you were to visit me on a Sunday afternoon, you would find the kettle on, the lamp lit before the dark, the framed photograph of a woman facing west, the shoebox in the closet with the lid that closes. You would sit at my table and I would pour you tea and ask what you are learning about your own time. If you said you didn't know, I would say, that's all right. You can board a train not knowing the names of the stops and still arrive. It is not revenge to leave. It is not cruelty to say no. It is not selfish to protect what you have left. It is not noble to set yourself on fire because other people like the light. It is a good and ordinary thing to stand in your kitchen and say, this is mine. It is a miracle to do it at 70 and feel finally on time. On the first anniversary of the train, I made exactly the same soup I was stirring when Paige called. I ate it slowly at my table and read a novel and let music play that didn't ask me to remember anything. I raised my spoon like a toast to nobody in particular and said softly, "Here's to good steel." Then I laughed because it sounded foolish and rate. I washed the bowl and put it in the rack and left the window open an inch. A freight moved through the far dark and said what trains say when they do not know who is listening. I heard it and did not pretend it was a message. It was simply a fact traveling. I recognized myself in it and went to bed.